Hi everyone, welcome to our info session. It's great to have so many of you here with us over what is likely your lunch hour. If you'd like, you're super welcome to turn on your camera, but you do not have to. You're of course super welcome to keep eating your lunch as well. My name's Lynn and I'm the program director of the Wattle Fellowship, and I'll be taking us through our info session today. I want to get started by acknowledging that I'm joining today's Zoom from the lands of the Wurundjeri people and pay respects to elders past and present. I imagine many of you are also joining from Wurundjeri country, but if you're not, you're super welcome to put into the chat where it is that you're joining in from today. Um, I sort of don't know why I always play the recruitment video, but I think it's like the first really important thing where I'm going to play this 90-second video. And if at the end of the 90-second video, you're like, wow, I'm at the wrong thing, or this isn't for me, I've then saved you 58 minutes. I'm going to hit play on hopefully the thing you all know you're here for, but just in case not.
Hey, are you someone that likes to stir the pot?
Or go against the grain?
Are you excited about sustainability and ready to make a difference in your community?
Then apply now for the Wattle Fellowship. The Wattle Fellowship isn't just another program.
It's a launch pad to unlock the leadership our planet needs. And guess what? It's open to all university students.
Whether you're in arts or commerce or doing a PhD in engineering, we want to hear from you.
Because solving the world's biggest problems needs all kinds of minds.
So, what does it involve?
The Wattle Fellowship starts with a one-year journey.
Packed with experience, perspective and learning.
You'll embark on leadership retreats and participate in workshops, and you'll meet with policymakers and global experts.
All whilst working on your own sustainability project.
Wattle Fellows are turning their big ideas into real impact, like starting a sustainable plant-based catering company, or producing a climate-themed theatre show, or growing food from your apartment.
Because why wait for change when you can lead it?
So if you're looking for a diverse and bold network,
A space to develop your big ideas,
And the support to become a leader in global sustainability, then come join us.
Great. Hopefully you're all still here. And excited and glad that you are looking at applying, or maybe you've already started applying for the Wattle Fellowship program. With me today, I also have Radia, Zofia, and Alex, who are all alumni of the program and at different stages, will help me just share more about what is the experience, what is the program. Something else about the Wattle Fellowship sort of information sessions is that it's really hopefully an opportunity for you to learn much more about, is this actually the right thing for you at this moment in time? And this might sound like a weird measure of success, but if at the end of this info session, you're like, oh, actually, I don't think this is quite right for me, or at this moment in time, at least, and you decide to not continue with your application, that's actually a really great use of how we spend this next hour together. But I just wanted to, not actually put everyone in breakout groups right away, but if people in the chat could maybe just share the faculty that you're coming from, why it is that you're interested, if there's anything in particular that you have questions about today, that would be super awesome. I'm going to give everyone a minute to type something and put it into the chat. Okay, great. Thank you so much for people that have already started sharing. It's lots to read. This is excellent. Awesome. Thank you for those who have put something in. Evan, I feel like coral resiliency has worked really well for your Zoom background as well. I don't know if that's intentional, but very well played, very well played. Awesome. For those who haven't put anything in yet, feel free to put it in. No, I've just gone back to the video. No, not. Oh no. Hang on. I'm just going to exit the screen. Otherwise, we'll play. There we are. We will not play the video again. Okay, so how we're going to spend our time together is I'm going to go through and share a little bit about what is the Wattle Fellowship, what does the program year look like, so you can get a sense of what it is that you're going into, what it is that we're looking for in terms of how like we're running the recruitment process. The really obvious one of how to apply. We'll put the link of where you can apply in case you haven't started yet. And of course, we'll leave room at the end for questions as well. And if you put in questions throughout, or if something I'm saying doesn't make sense, one of our alumni will jump into the chat to just help answer it too. But yes, to get started, at its core, Wattle is a year-long sustainability leadership program. And for the first time, we're open to students at the University of Melbourne alongside La Trobe University as well. One of the things that makes Wattle really special for me to get to work on is, unlike most other things you'll do at a university, it actually doesn't matter what faculty you come from, even though I asked that. We really have people from all different disciplines. So Alex here is studying design, hoping to become an architect. Sophia studied bioinformatics, which I learned a whole lot of things about. I still cannot define it for you, but that's okay. And Radia actually came in from a public health perspective, looking to do more on sustainability. So we really do look to recruit for a cohort that come from diverse disciplines and also all levels of study. So whether you're an undergraduate student doing your PhD or doing a coursework master's, you are welcome to join this program. Over the course of the year that people spend with us in the program, we've identified that there's 4 things that people really most get out of the program. And these are in some ways quite general, because if you were to ask, oh, but what did people do for their projects? Or like, what did, extra event experiences that people had? Every Wattle Fellows experience is super, super different. But the things that we found to be pretty universal are purpose. Everyone that applies for this program already has a bit of a sense of what their purpose is, but what you leave with at the end of the Wattle Fellowship is actually clarity of that purpose, and like that linking of that purpose to other things you might be doing, whether that's in studies, life, or otherwise. The second thing that is a pretty universal takeaway that people have is self-belief. So the confidence to act and even act in uncertainty. And step 1 of action in the world of Wattle is you applied for the program, and then the things that potentially come after that as well. The third that people talk about is reflection, that ability to be really honest about the things that are working, the things that aren't working, and actually what can you do as a result of next steps. It's a lot easier to think about where are your learning and leadership and growth opportunities when you also have the ability to sit down and hold up a mirror to yourself effectively. And then the last that's really core to Wattle is it's about action. How do we take the things that you already know from your life, from the classroom, and actually translate that into you getting your hands dirty, sometimes quite literally, because we've had lots of projects to do with like soil, gardening, and the like, but then obviously also figuratively as well, and actually translating all of the things that you end up learning, not just in Wattle, but through your broader university experiences. And maybe the last thing I'll say on this is that in some ways, these aren't things that we teach directly, and these are also all things that anyone could do at any one point in time. Part of why Wattle for many people is that the program has been designed to bring out these elements through a combination of challenge, feedback, but also being able to do that with other people as well can sometimes make it a lot easier. And what that means is it's a year that hopefully changes how you think and how you act and what it is that you end up doing on your sustainability journey. And the last thing about those 4 things is I don't think there's any one singular thing that is like Wattle. It's sort of all 4 of those things in combination in some way, shape, or form. So how do we actually do that? I just said here are all the things we don't teach, but here are actually some of the things that we do cover in terms of the program structure. So the program is structured over the course of a year where you will mostly attend monthly workshops, and some of the things in this slide are some of the content things that we specifically cover. There's also 2 residential retreats, one at the start of the program and one at the end of the program, and they're really key for one, obviously covering lots of content, but also really spending a lot of time together in a cohort and practicing what does it look like to be in community and what does it look like to be taking action and learning with others. There's also coaching as well that happens quarterly throughout the program. And then there are specific skills that we find people walk away with. And again, it's not necessarily because we always run singular workshops on these areas, but over the course of the year, these are the things that you'll get to sort of practice and lean into. I'm going to pause for a moment just to check in with our alumni to see if there's anything any of you would want to mention in terms of these aspects that really resonated or like stood out for you during your Wattle year.
Yeah, absolutely yes to everything that Lynn has already mentioned, particularly to the part of apprenticing with the problem and falling in love with the problem. I think that's something that was really impactful to me doing the Wattle Fellowship. Was really emphasizing how can you how to say it, you can fall in love with the idea of doing something and you really, really want to do this specific thing. But the idea of falling in love with the problem is that the problem will tell you what you need to do to work with it. And that was something I thought was pretty awesome. And it was taught in a incredibly structured way, with so many different speakers across so many different areas. And yeah, going back to the Wattle tagline of a year that changes how you think, I think that the falling in love with the problem aspect was that for me.
Awesome. Thank you, Sophia. Radia, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I actually wanted to add a bit onto the falling in love with the problem aspect. I thought that was a huge part of the fellowship for me, and it really tied into Lynn what you were speaking about, self-belief, but really having that confidence and using that year to build up on, whether it's my personal speaking skills, my public speaking skills. I mean, some of these skills that you showed on the screen, like delegation, facilitation, and actually developing my action project. But even as I was moving about and completing my degree as well, the things that I was learning in Wattle, I was able to apply and really extrapolate from my master's. While I was doing my program alongside it. And even now, as an alum, these are things and skills that I'm still growing and developing on, and that I'm actually applying in my day-to-day as well.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you for that. And I mentioned coaching before, and I think coaching is the bit where people really have their individual experiences. So everything that I just shared before, quite a lot of that happens with the full cohort. There are certain bits where only some fellows choose to take up certain opportunities. So there's little sort of subgroups within that. But coaching is the one thing that becomes the scaffolding of how you individually get supported, which means that some of these things might already feel really comfortable. Some might not necessarily feel comfortable. You then get that sort of individual tailored time to work through the things that make sense for you, but might not actually make sense for the 29 other people in the group. So it's a really mostly pretty good balance, I think, of the group, but then also the individual as well. And something that many people describe as being one of the highlights of their time in Wattle is the ability to take an idea from the start of a random thought in your head, from the problem that you've fallen in love with all the way through to implementation, and then also potentially evaluating what that looks like as well. We provide a little bit of funding in order to be able to bring that idea to life, but also, again, some of the structure of these are useful things for you to think about if you've never done this before. And I would say many fellows take on doing something that they've never done before. And I just wanted to share a couple of the projects that we've had. And I'm not going to share all of the projects, but if you're interested, on our YouTube channel, one of the events that we do at the end of the fellowship year is called Spotlight, and many of the fellows then share what it is that they sort of got up to in the year, and share a little bit about their projects. But each of the projects really are quite representative of the diversity. Very rarely are two projects similar. But there's lots of shared learning. So sometimes people like Hannah, who was studying to be a doctor and is actually currently qualified as a doctor, decided to do something really building upon the information and knowledge she already had as a future health professional, and looking at the idea of, well, how do you combine sustainability with that? And she chose to focus on menstruation as a part of that, and the sort of physical waste that gets produced, but then of course also the cultural aspects of what would it look like to reduce waste in this space. We then had someone named Medina who decided to use her time in the Wattle Fellowship to see what are other ways that you can promote a plant-based diet given the environmental and sustainability benefits that that has, and used her time to actually launch a business and test out, could this be something that's viable? Could this be something that I do alongside university or after university as well? And how could this business be not just something that generates profit, but also as a form of education? I didn't mention it before, but Hannah decided to run her project as a series of education workshops, but then also with an advocacy element as well. So looking at, yes, there's the individual behavior change that people could run, but then there's also the bigger picture of, well, who in government could potentially change this so that every student benefits from this knowledge? And I just highlight that in particular alongside the starting of a business, because there is no one type of project either, in terms of it doesn't have to be something that you do on campus. It doesn't have to be something that involves education. It doesn't have to be something that involves like policy change. It can be any combination of this. And again, it sort of goes off what Sophia and Radi have already shared. If you fall in love with the problem, you realize there's likely to be at least 85 solutions that you have accessible to you, and what combination of those things would be the most useful and interesting for you to look into. And then I think this is the final project that I'll share for now. Hemant was studying engineering and decided to use his time in Wattle to prototype what would it look like to actually leverage AI for good, and could that be done alongside people who work within different like parklands doing surveying already, to be able to speed up the work that they were already doing in terms of like physically detecting if there were changes in flora and fauna, but also what would it look like to be able to access locations where people might not be able to get to without, a 3-day hike. Could there be ways that technology could be enabled there? So there's really a real mix of what's possible. And then another thing about the program year, and I don't know who the other 9% are, or at least what they're saying, but 91%, which I think is a very high statistic still, really say that actually getting to do the fellowship alongside other people, connecting with alumni, is the most valuable part, and that the relationships continue in many ways. Alex, is there anything you would like to add on? Hopefully you're part of the 91%. Otherwise, I've called on the wrong person.
No, I am definitely 91%. I think one of the best things about Wattle is that at uni we spend so much time kind of siloed into our own faculty and our own year level. So one of the best things is being able to meet all these different people who have a shared passion for sustainability, but are approaching it from so many different ways, which is really interesting, and just it's a great sense of community that you build across the year. Like we're still all really close, which has been really nice.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. One of the things that's been really cool for us to sort of see as the program staff is, of course, not just like the friendships in the community and the support that comes from it, but also all of the collaborations that come as a result of, oh, I now know someone in this field that is completely different to my own. I want to work on this project. Who can I reach out to in the network? And even if it's not someone immediately from the network, it's who does that person potentially know? So a really big part of the program is really about planting those seeds of like collaboration and cross-pollination as well. I think both of these photos also come from our alumni weekend, which is also something that is part of the program. I'm going to pause. Yes, I'll pause here just to see, are there any questions from people who are online looking at applying specifically about the program? You're welcome to just come off mute or put it into the chat and we'll try to answer. This could be about like specifics or more around what it is that people get out of the program. Yes.
Can I
Yes, Evan, you ask your question, then I'll answer yours and Chantel's question at once.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the projects. Are those projects supposed to have a scope where they last a year in terms of the fellowship, or are these longer lasting projects or aims that outlive your time in the fellowship so like what's the timeline and like scope for those kind of projects?
For sure. So I think that we've seen all sides of that spectrum in different ways. For the project specifically, we have encouraged people to think of it at a minimum, and some people use this as the floor, some people use it as a ceiling. What can you do in 40 hours? Effectively, once you've actually come up with your idea, if you had one full work week to implement it, what is it that you could get done? Both in terms of the things that you might learn, the impact that you might have. Realistically, I think everyone almost always goes over that 40 though, but for different reasons. So we definitely don't set a ceiling on how ambitious you can be. If your ambition is to launch a business, for example, in like plant-based food, you might not be able to do that singularly within 1 year. So we then ask you, well, in the context of your time in Wattle, what are the things that you think are achievable within that time period? And we also, I guess, like offer quite a lot of flexibility in the project component. So for some people, it's picking up on something that you're already doing and like thinking through what is the next phase. For others, it's I've never done this before, but I think I'll learn a lot from it. So that's what I'm planning on doing. And then for for some, they end up actually having more than one project because it's sort of, I fell in love with this problem. Turns out my first intervention didn't quite work. So I'm going to try intervention number two, and then maybe I'll take the learnings from intervention number two into intervention number three. So it really can be quite variable on that front. And you do not need to have an action project idea before applying. You definitely will have time in the fellowship to develop that. There's quite a lot of feedback, both from your other fellows, but also staff, to shape that into something that is realistic. So, like, you can be ambitious and also realistic at the same time. So, yes, you don't need to know what it is that you will already do. In some ways, it's not that we encourage you to come in with absolutely no idea, but if you do have an idea already, we would encourage you to hold it really lightly because that idea should hopefully change over the course of what it is that you intend to do. And Chantel, your very practical question, the program officially starts on the 25th of July. That's when we have like an orientation day-long session. Awesome. We'll definitely have time to keep coming back to questions, but I just wanted to, yeah, pause us for a moment. I'll keep going now into what is it that we are looking for? By first starting with what we are not looking for. So there's a lot of things where you might apply, and it's obviously, of course, great if you've had the opportunity in life to achieve a lot of things already or experience a lot of things. At Wattle, though, as much as yes, we're interested in that, so definitely don't shy away from sharing the things that you've done before. What we're most looking for is what is your potential, and where do you hope to sort of go, and how could we potentially be part of that journey? So it's not that we're looking for the most perfect person. We actually want people that are ready to change. We want people that know what that change might look like. You might not have all of the full answers, and that's sort of part of where the program comes in. But that's just really something to be cognizant of. And the reason why I've like highlighted here, we're looking for something that's harder to fake is getting into the Wattle Fellowship is definitely an achievement, but like I'd say getting to the end of the Wattle Fellowship is like the moment when people really feel like, woo, I've done it, which is to say, apply with the person you want us to meet. Because if you get into the program, that's going to be like who we're expecting for the rest of the year. And even though there's change that happens, we obviously don't want anyone coming into the program feeling as if they have to pretend to be something that they're not. So just like a quick note on AI here is you're super welcome to use it in your application, especially if it helps you with like brainstorming initial ways that you might want to answer some of the questions or to proofread. But we're not looking for the best writer or the best communicator. And the things that we are looking for, that honest, like genuine reflection, some answers that realistically probably only you know the responses to, definitely mean it's not essential. So that's some of the things that we're not looking for. But some of the things that we are looking for, and these are the actual selection criteria. So they're also available on the website as well. And in each of the questions, we're sort of looking for glimmers of this in different ways. Commitment to sustainability is one, and also connection to purpose. And these are similar but separate. And the reason why I'll just like speak to this now is that we sometimes have people come into the program who care about sustainability issues, but actually over the course of their like studies and life, they haven't actually done that much, as in they haven't decided to make that their number one focus, but they have a different connection to purpose. And that might be, and Radi, I'm literally using your example, you as an example right now. Like the connection might be the understanding of the importance of like community organizing and like representing different and diverse voices in like solutions on a policy front. So when Radi applied, that was really, really strong. And the commitment to sustainability was there and the care was there, but not yet necessarily with, you know, the long list of here are the 85 things I've done, but with real clarity on here's why I think it's important and here's how I want to bring these two things together. And I guess the other thing to note there is we're looking for these six things, which is to say maybe you're really strong in one, or like there's one where you're like, oh yes, I definitely know how to show people that I'm like really open to challenge and like love feedback. And then maybe there are others where you're like, actually, I'm like currently not so good at this, but here's how I think I might be able to benefit from it or learn from it. So the other four are openness to challenge. There's a lot of feedback that you get in the context of Wattle. You also get the opportunity to offer a lot of feedback, which is also quite an uncomfortable experience as well. So this is just something that being able to come in with curiosity there, I think is like really key rather than having like all of the skills on that front. And that's quite closely tied into with championing others because you can offer feedback as a form of care. And you can definitely offer feedback as a form of, I see you and I want to champion your idea, your thoughts, or what it is that you're doing next. A track record of action is quite different to a track record of achievement and accomplishment. So it's not that you need to have had a series of awards, but it's that you can show us you've cared about something, you've thought about something, and then you've gone and done something as well. And for different people, that will really vary. For some people, it will literally be, I'm not going to use a super specific example, but it can literally be, well, actually, this is why I've decided to study insert like degree X or like specific subjects Y. For others, it could be about a time when you've stood up for an issue in a context where that was potentially like challenging. And then the last thing here is around reflectiveness. And that's what I mean by it's hard for AI to fake the things that you don't know and the things that you're still learning. Only you will be able to tell us what that is. Is there anything, alumni, that you would want to add onto this around the things that we're looking for and maybe even how you were thinking about this when you were applying for the program based on what you knew or didn't know going in?
I can be really quick. So I remember when I was working on my application, I found it a bit hard at first to think about, okay, how do I want to, I guess, frame my interest in sustainability as someone who didn't really have much of a background in the space. But I remember, being really honest and like candid about the work that I had done and how I wanted to translate that and kind of like build that bridge between what I had already done and like what I had wanted to do. And my Wattle year, and honestly, the years after were really great because I was able to take the time in this space to really build those connections with people who are like already working in the space or who also had similar interests as I did, and then really like launch into it and focus on the intersection of, as Lynn said, community engagement, public health, public policy, and planetary health or sustainability. So Wattle was really great to just kind of like push me forward and like give me the space and the time to really focus on that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Maybe if I can really quick add on to what Radia said. I feel like when you're applying for stuff, it's so hard to know what the tone it is you're trying to hit. Being really candid is like, I think absolutely the right tone for this and being very upfront. And I feel like, throughout my year at Wattle, it was like, yeah, extremely candid and extremely down to earth and very real about like the, wins, but also the challenges of doing projects in this area.
Awesome. Thank you. And just in terms of logistics of who can apply, as I mentioned, it's quite literally any university student at La Trobe or the University of Melbourne. You can be studying anything in any sort of like fraction, part-time, full-time, domestic, international. We don't have a minimum WAM, but we do ask that you be in good academic standing, which I believe just means you're mostly on top of like what your academic studies are. Yes, so quite literally everyone can apply. But if you are, for whatever reason, in doubt about your eligibility, we recommend you email to ask us and we can confirm that for you before you progress with your application as well. And then in terms of the application itself, we we think, but we could be wrong. And this is why in the application, if you've already started, we ask you, how long has it actually taken you? But we think if you spend around 1.5 to 2 hours, you should be able to put in a pretty solid application. And that's definitely based on it's not that you need that much time to type out all of your responses, but you might want to just give yourself a bit of time to think about some of the questions. So there's a few different stages to the overall application process. The first stage where you're at right now is, oh, what is a WAM? Like a GPA. It's like your grades. I guess you don't have one as a doctoral student though, but it's basically, yeah, how you're going with your studies. And yeah, I wouldn't stress Evan, but apologies for the momentary panic there. So in terms of the application process, the first stage is where you're all at now, which is there's info sessions, there's information that you could be getting. And if not from this info session, like I said, over the course of the like sort of month that we've been in recruitment, we're posting a lot of things on social media. We have some of the things that we've done in the past on YouTube. All of those are designed to give you more of a sense of what is the program and how could you fit in it. The first stage of the program, where we think it takes 1.5 to 2 hours, is the written stage. There's a series of questions that we ask you, and mostly it's to get to know who are you, why are you thinking about this program now. In the follow up to this, we'll share the recording to how to write a good application or how to prepare a good application. Because if you watch these two things in tandem, you'll get a little bit more on the specifics there. One thing that I will specifically call out is we have an optional section, and it's optional but extremely encouraged and highly, highly, highly recommended. And in that optional section, it's really an opportunity for you to share without us having told you what to share. There's lots of questions that we ask you, but in this, it's basically like, hey, what else is it that you want to let us know? And you don't even have to let us know using written words. You could make us something. You could make a video. I have definitely received a song before. It's like, however it is you want to showcase who you are, that is definitely possible. So that is the first stage of the application process. And applications do close in 2 weeks' time, and they will definitively close. Like there is no, oh, there's a fake extension. There is no fake extension. They will just close. And once the applications have closed, each of the written applications gets read by at least 2 people. From there, we will notify a short list of candidates, about 60 to 70 people, depending on overall numbers. And they will be invited to the selection interviews. These are half-day experiences. You don't have to come to both days. You only come to one of the days, one of the options, where you will get a bit more of an in-person experience as to what the Wattle Fellowship experience is like. There's some group activities, there's some one-on-one activities, and it's from there that we then balance out for, well, what does the overall cohort look like? There's a lot of programs where when you apply, maybe they're just looking for the quote unquote best people, but for Wattle, we're looking for the best combination of people rather than just like the best individual folks. I just want to pause there to see if Alex, if there was anything you wanted to share from the interview day. It was a while ago, but if you can remember.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the interview day. I think I was like terrified naturally. But it's a good sense kind of what Waddle is like, because our one at least you have like individual interviews, but then you also have a group interview, which is kind of just a lot of fun. Like you get put in a group and have to try solve the sustainability problem. I remember my group making this like model of a city with like a waterfall going through it, which I was enjoying as a design student. But yeah, it's a bit of a little taster of what Wattle workshops are like, and yeah, not too intimidating.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Alex. Um, Excellent. And I'll just keep answering some of these questions. So those who submit something optionally, it does increase your chances of getting an interview. I guess it's like the team who do the reviews literally read hundreds of applications. And like we spend a lot of time on each of these applications because we really value and recognize the amount of time that like we're asking of you. So of course, the least we can do is also read things. And like read things with like a high level of intentionality and care. Where we sort of find the optional stuff really helps is sometimes once you've read about someone, you get a sense of them, but maybe you only get 50% of a sense of them. And I don't think there's ever been an optional thing that has been shared where it doesn't actually give me like 10% more understanding of who this person is. So it's really just that opportunity to like add a little bit of color, if you will, to your overall application. And I know that in like university, sometimes people are marking to a rubric and they're looking for places to give points or whatever else. We are never looking for places to deduct points, right? Like we are only looking for extra things. Alex, what would you want to add?
I was just going to say that the extra thing also doesn't have to be like really formal. Like I filmed a video of myself just like chatting, and here's some photos of things I've done, and picture of me on a beach being like this is why I care. So yeah.
Yes, excellent. I mean, the one thing that I would not recommend people share, even though you're welcome to share it, is sharing a CV with me is like nice because like you have the option to. So like if you want, like feel free to share like a CV or resume, but it really will very rarely give me more information than what I already have from the answers that you've already shared. So this is really that opportunity for you to just like express yourself in different ways. So we now have time for your questions. And I was thinking that maybe I'll take two or three more when we're in the like whole big room here together. And it could be to do with like the application, the program itself, other things that you thought we should have covered here, but we haven't covered. And then I'll actually move us into breakout rooms so that you can have some one-on-one time with each of the alumni to ask specific questions. I know sometimes that's just a lot nicer to do when we're in smaller groups. But if you have any questions, please come offline, off mute, or put it into the chat. Miranda, I think we will have about 30 people in the cohort this year, which was the size that it was last year. And because the program runs for a year, it starts in July and it ends around July. But then people will remain engaged with different activities for a lot longer than that. That sort of doesn't have an ongoing end date. And the cohort will not be equally split between the two universities. I think as the program sort of started at the University of Melbourne, that's probably where it will still be a little bit more predominantly weighted. We haven't quite figured out what those numbers and split will be just yet. I'm just making sure I'm not missing questions in the chat. A few people have asked if you're going to be like not in Australia for either the interview or the start of the program, what are the options? What I would say is if you're planning on taking exchange, like going on exchange for all of semester two this year, then yeah, that's like a little bit hard to make work. But if it's like one or two things that you might not be here for, even if it's at the start, these are all things that are workable in different ways. So I wouldn't, yeah, have that prevent you from applying still if you're interested in doing that. Rowdy's already answered this question a little bit for you, Catherine, around how many PhD candidates are involved and how they manage the workload. I think in some ways it's a really fair question to all like people that do the Wattle Fellowship. How do they make it work? And I think everyone does it quite differently. One thing that I found to be really sort of useful in how people have like framed this for them is can the Wattle Fellowship be one of your anchors in the coming year that you are part of the program, which isn't to say it's the most important thing in your life and other things don't matter, but alongside your study commitments, your family friend commitments, maybe whatever paid work commitments that you have, could this potentially be like a fourth anchor of things that you choose to prioritize and make time and space for? And what that looks like for people will vary because some people are able to combine this a little bit more into their work life. Some people need to have conversations with whoever is in their household around, hey, I'm going to need you to be more available during some of these periods. So it really varies quite a lot. I don't know if any of our alumni wanted to share a little bit more about how you made the workload work on the overall.
I think for most, this is tricky for PhD because it's pretty like continuous, the research workload, but a lot of us did our projects over summer, the majority of it. And that made it a lot easier to balance with coursework degrees. Um, yeah, I'm sure that someone who was doing a PhD would have a better way of putting how they managed it, but there's been quite a few people who've done their projects.
Yes. And I think like the thing about like PhD students in particular, but also just like others as well, is your project doesn't actually have to be directly related to your specific studies because we realize you might be studying insert whatever, but you might have past experiences in other areas, other interests as well. And I would say that, like, at least certainly for all of the PhD students, but also like many of the master's students, they come in being like, yes, this is going to be a way that I add professional experience to like my existing studies. And then halfway through the idea development stage, they're like, whoa, actually, I would really love the opportunity to explore this other part of who I also am. So I'm going to do something a little bit different. And so many of these skills are actually like transferable as well, as opposed to just being like quite specific. Cool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up the breakout rooms. In each of the rooms, there'll be an alumni, and you'll be able to ask them any questions that you might have. If you have like really specific, like pointy, nitty-gritty questions, probably send us an email or feel free to stay in the main room and ask that question of me. But this is otherwise sort of the official close of the info session. But I really hope you stick around and chat to the alumni because they'll be able to give you a lot more about both their experiences, but answer any of the questions you have. So I'll open up the rooms. I may not see you again, so thank you all so much for joining. And yeah, we really do look forward to reading your applications if you end up putting one in.